Morning gardeners and homesteaders, welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day, and we're going to make it a little bit better for you today, or at least we're going to attempt to. So we've got a lot of new viewers, we got some listeners going on in the Backyard Gardens podcast. A lot of people are commenting, asking, how do we know if we're not growing GMO seeds in our gardens? And especially when it comes to like saving seed and stuff like that. And this is a really important conversation that needs to be had. Before we really get into that question, though, there is something that we really need to understand first, and that's the genetically modified organism or the seed itself. And there's multiple categories of seeds. So there's heirloom seeds, there's hybrid seeds, there's organic seeds, there's conventional seeds, and then there's GMO seeds. And once you start breaking all of this down, it'll start coming together. But it's, as far as our garden goes, we plan this year to grow one of the top GMO seeds ever made. Not that we're growing GMO seeds, but this crop has the potential to be a GMO seed. Here in this bed in the middle, where you see the ratty broccoli and nothing else in it, we're going to be planting all corn in this bed this year. So this is going to all be corn for one part of it, and then we may actually do all corn in this one after our onions are done. This is one of the riskiest plants for GMO seeds, but back to the original thought of you have your heirloom seeds, which I'm going to try and get my facts right. I may be off a little bit, but you'll get the general gist of it. Is heirloom seeds, I believe the cutoff date is 1954, so they haven't been hybridized or mixed with any other kind of pollen or seed, and they're pure seed from 1954 before. So anything after that is not necessarily a heirloom seed. Then you got a hybrid seed. Now these are really confused with GMO seeds. Hybrid seed is as simple as, well, let me give you an example. Say just we go crazy here and we take the pollen from this onion and mix it with the pollen from this garlic, and we grow the seed, harvest the seed, and then the next year we do it again and again and again, and then save it, so on and so forth. Now we would be getting the best traits out of both of those. We would be creating a garlicky onion. Actually sounds pretty good, doesn't it? I patented it first, but you get the disease resistance of one, the flavor of the other, the speed of growth, the size. So basically in this seed right here, we'd have a Vidalia-sized garlic head that had the same traits and the same disease resistance as one as the other. And then you save it over years and years, and you would get a more stable seed, right? So that's a hybrid seed. Then you got an organic seed. An organic seed is a seed that's raised with no chemicals, none of that stuff. It's got the organic certification. Do I need to say that out loud? It's got the organic certification, and it's able to be deemed an organic seed. Then you got a conventional seed, and a conventional seed is not grown organically, but it's just a seed. They may use chemicals as far as like pest treatments and stuff like that are non-organic, because organic seeds, they can use organic treatments on them too, so they can still spray them, but they just have to be organic. And then they save the seed and they move on. Then you've got genetically modified seeds, GMO. This is where things get a little fun. So you got your GMO seed, your genetically modified organism, and that's when they take a seed and then they splice in at the genetic level something into it. So a lot of times what everybody's referring to is like Roundup or something like that. So you get like a Roundup ready seed, right? So it's basically got the Roundup already in it, so when it grows, if the bugs attack it, they'll die, less treatment, this, that, and the other. So that's what a genetically modified seed is. Now I want you to think about this for a second. It seems kind of expensive, right? Genetically modified seeds are basically grown as a whole on the farming level. They're grown for feed for your animals and stuff like that, which is in turn whatever negative benefits may or may not come out of it, which I'm not here to talk about, even though for the record I don't like it, but there is that. It will get passed down to the human through the consumption of the meat. And the rest of it is grown for anything that uses corn, corn syrup, corn oil, soybean oil, anything like that. And that's why when you go to the store and you buy it, you're either buying, if you want to avoid it, you buy organic or not, they're labeled non-GMO, right? So that's right off the bat. So enough of the food. let's talk about the seed. So a lot of these crops here, I'm trying to think, actually I take that back. None of these crops here were labeled non-GMO on the pack. Okay, so just to give you a rundown of quickly what we're growing, we, and actually for a little update, we just put spinach in this first row. So we've got spinach, cabbage, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, onions, garlic, broccoli, and then similar stuff in the greenhouse. I didn't buy anything that said non-GMO on it because guess what? These aren't GMO plants. These are not what genetically modified are. So your genetically modified crops, and it changes. It's been growing, but not at like an exponential rate. You basically, it's your corn, your soybeans, some kind of beet, I believe, because they make like beet sugars and stuff like that. You know what, I'm just gonna stop right there. There's like 10 different crops and most of them we don't grow. I think there may be strawberries now, and I think there may be apples as well. So, and there's some others in there, but as a whole, it's not a lot of the crops that we would grow in our gardens. So the biggest thing is to educate yourself before you do this, because what this has created is an absolute marketing, it's a nightmare for the consumers, and it's a wet dream come true for the seed companies. Basically, the idea of it is GMO seeds and the marketing of them, of putting non-GMO in there, is to trigger you to buy the seed and thinking that you're getting something that you're actually not. So this is the point in the video where I'm going to tell you your answer, but then we're going to elaborate just a little bit further. So as of right now, in this day and age, in the year of our Lord 2024 and every year before it, you cannot buy a genetically modified seed for your garden. There is nobody that can sell one to the average consumer. There it is. Nobody can sell it to you. Now, there are companies that sell you seeds that are supported and part of Monsanto and the Bayer Foundation and all of these places that do grow genetically modified seeds, but they cannot give them to you, nor can they sneak them into you, because remember when we were telling you about how you make GMO seed? Guess what that process is? It's expensive, and you would pay for it. You would know that you pay for it. You can't save the seed. It's illegal to save the seed because they make you sign contracts saying that you will not save the seed. And a lot of times the seed is sterile on top of that. So that brings us into the seed saving portion of this. And is you save whatever seeds you want because you're not growing a genetically modified seed. End of story. Now, there is an argument that if you're near a field and there's a genetically modified crop growing and the pollen comes over, that yes, you may be getting some cross-pollination going on. And yes, there are news stories about people who have had cross-pollination, save the seed on their regular farm, and then these companies came after them. Don't know if it's true or false, but we've all heard the stories. They came after them for patent rights and stuff like that. So there is that aspect of it. But generally speaking, you don't need to worry about that. Nobody's going to come after the home gardener for that. It's not that big a deal because you're not selling it for a profit. And if you are, you're not making a dent. But you cannot buy a genetically modified seed for your garden. And so there is comfort and solace in that for us, because this is something I was concerned about for a long time. And this was the hot topic from like 2008 to 2013 roughly, where it was talked about a lot, but it was talked about in the subculture of gardening and conspiracy and stuff like that. And it was never really mainstream enough, so the news didn't talk about it and whatnot, because genetically modified food is a scary proposition, and if you think about it. Now, I do want to say I believe that this bed's going to be potatoes, and if I'm not mistaken, there are genetically modified potatoes for farmers, but the same thing applies to people like you and I. We are not going to get them. So you can see in our garden, we're going to have 3 beds, well, 4, because we're doing 2 beds of potatoes, that we have these crops that we could grow that we would be in danger of, but we're not worried about it. Now, to the subject of buying the seeds that are supported, that the company that makes these chemicals and these seeds support, That's up to you to figure out. I can tell you I've looked into it and it is a deep rabbit hole. And what I need people to understand is it's not like it used to be. Now you'll have one company own 50 companies. So you've got to really follow the money and follow it and just go do your research if that's something you really care about doing. But the seed companies that sell to gardeners, that's totally separate. I mean, you're lining their pocket, sure, at some level, but it's totally different and just, it's way out there. So, you can do your research, and I've tried to do mine, but it's really hard to keep up with. And I'll just say this, the bigger seed companies are the ones that are supported by them, generally speaking. And when I say bigger, I mean the bigger ones. But I don't feel comfortable talking about it here because I don't know, and I don't want to put anybody on blast that I'm not totally confident about, because it's not fair. And I know that people are really passionate about this. So I try to be very respectful of that. And, we can do our research. So do what you got to do. So I think I need to take a second here and address the silent elephant in the room. And that's the organic versus conventional seeds. I don't know how you feel about it, but if we know they're not genetically modified seeds being conventional, we know all of the data that I just showed you, and you feel free to fact check me and look it up all you want. Across the board, you'll get the same answers. But as far as this goes, what's the point in buying an organic seed for a higher price than a conventional seed? And I understand because maybe the conventional seed had some kind of not so good chemical grown on it or sprayed on it, but it's not genetically modified, and that was on the mother plant, and that came after this or before the seed was even produced. So you're looking at a cellular level, and unless you take every single step possible to eliminate this out of your diet, like completely. So I mean, you don't go out to eat unless it's organic restaurants. You don't buy anything that's not organic. You don't buy anything, across the board. You don't drink soda. You don't do any of this stuff. You're not wearing anything genetically modified or that's not organic or anything like that. Does it really matter? I have mixed feelings about it, but I land on the subject of I don't think it really matters, because that was the mother plant. And then if I save the seed year after year, if it's not a hybrid or something, then it just kind of gets worked out of the genetic makeup on it. But I'm not a geneticist, never claimed to be. But I just that's my gut feeling about it, my intuition. And I don't even know if I have good intuition, but it makes me feel comfortable at night. I saw an ad the other day, and I want you to know this. Once you have knowledge, you have power. Yeah, you are the most powerful person in this field once you have knowledge. And we are always gaining knowledge. All the time, I'm gaining more. I'm trying to get more and more powerful in my decisions and what I do. And I saw my least favorite seed company. If you listen to the Backyard Gardens podcast, you know what it is. I'm not going to blast them here. But they had this weird doofy dude doing the ad, dead giveaway. And two things was said in that ad. It said the first one was, this is our best-selling carrot seed that we have here, and it's the first year we've sold it. So first thing was, well, how is it your best-selling carrot seed if it's the first year you've had it and it's the beginning of the growing season? And then the second thing was, we have the best non-GMO seeds available. Everybody has non-GMO seeds, bruh.